Hey guys, what's up? You're listening to the MFCEO Project podcast. I'm Andy Frisella. I'm here with my co-host, Vaughn Kohler. And today we are joined by a special guest, Teresa DePasquale from Tampa, Florida, who is also an entrepreneur in her own right and has come up with a number of successful businesses. And we're going to talk about a few things. What's the MFCEO podcast about? 16 years ago, me and my partner, we started a business with $12,000 that we got from painting the stripes on parking lots, and we rolled that into a company 17 years later that does annual revenue over $100 million a year. So basically what we want to do is we want to bring a mentorship aspect to people who may not have mentors. We want to bring you guys the truth, the no sugarcoat, no bullshit reality of business. And we want to help you guys realize what can be achieved, because in today's society, it is very common for everyone to be negative, and we're going to try to get you guys the tools you need to be positive and to make results happen. So I'm gonna get started here on a couple questions. Before I do, Vaughn, you were just mentioning to me that your wife is from Poland.
Yeah, she's from Poland. She's an immigrant.
She is.
She grew up in another town, however, that has more Polish people than most Polish towns.
What do you mean?
Chicago.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Chicago actually has almost more Poles than like Krakow and
More
some
Poles?
of the more Poles. Yeah.
What kind of Poles?
Yeah.
Like dollar bill Poles?
Yeah. Well, the problem they run into in sporting events in Poland, you know that, don't you? The problem is wherever you sit, you're always sitting behind a pole. No,
Yeah.
no, but
so like when
she's
you guys
fluent.
change a light bulb at your house, you guys got to do it together and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. And what's funny is I told her that I'm old enough that in the '80s all the jokes were about Polish people.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to offend everybody in our audience is Polish, but I love Poles. They're great.
We all know you love Poles.
Yeah. I walked into that one. I love Polish women, should say, or one in particular.
Teresa, you're Polish,
One
right?
in particular.
No.
Yeah.
Or were we just talking about you're Polish?
Portuguese.
Oh, Portuguese.
Yes.
Well, I think we should have a contest on how to spell Teresa's last name.
Why is it tricky?
DePasquale, is that how you say it?
That was perfectly.
All right. Well, see, like I said, I'm used to my wife's.
That's a nice,
actually
good
Italian.
Italian name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Polish language is just a bunch of consonants thrown together. It's impossible to learn. But yeah, no, she was flown over here. She escaped communism.
She did.
Yeah. Yeah. Back in the '80s, Ronald Reagan said, "Anybody want to escape communism? We'll help you out."
She jumped the Berlin Wall.
She was born in Berlin because her parents were out of the country when she was born. But yeah. So there's a piece of the Berlin Wall in Missouri. You know that,
I saw
right?
that. Was that you that you went and saw that? Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's an awesome place. Churchill Museum.
Yeah, where is that?
Yeah, it's in Fulton, Missouri at Westminster.
I think I saw that on your Instagram.
Westminster College. Yeah,
and that was cool.
Yeah. So, but Teresa, so you're gonna join us today, huh?
I am.
Are you going to add pithy, insightful comments?
Hopefully.
That's normally my job. But
So, Teresa, tell us a little bit about what you do and your entrepreneurial history. I know it, but nobody else does. So,
Well, currently I am the founder of Bikini Boss Fitness. So basically, it's an online fitness business, but we've basically branched out now. We have a couple different divisions. So I have a competitive team. I do content delivery programs. I have coaches. I have an online store. And we've kind of started steamrolling into like almost a little multi-level business as well. So that's my current venture.
And before that, you owned some gyms and clubs and things like that, right?
Yes.
Some brick and mortar businesses.
Yep, I had 2 gyms in Tampa.
Yeah. She's evolved basically from very similar to how we have started with brick and mortar type businesses and then evolved
Moved
into
online.
more online type businesses, which is very similar to what we do as well. So, Vaughn, what are we talking about today?
we're talking about something that people have been asking questions. They've been sending questions to Ask Andy at the MFCEO.com, and one of the common questions we get has to do with this topic of ideas, various questions that go along with that. What do you do when you're really passionate and you're willing to work hard, but you just don't have an idea for a product or a business, or if you have an idea, How do you know if it's $1 million idea? That sort of thing. So I just thought we'd talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. I think that's definitely one of the most common questions that I get, even through email or in person or whatever. People always ask, how do I know what idea or what route I should take? And I feel like, that's a very difficult question for somebody to answer, because the reality is that answer can really only come from the person that's asking the question. So it's an introspective type question. You have to be able to look at yourself and decide that on your own. It's not something that somebody can decide for you, because of the reality, if somebody does that, you're going to end up being on a road that you're not sure was even the road that you picked.
Right.
And then when things get tough, you're going to say, man, I didn't choose to be here. So-and-so told me to do this.
Right.
So it's important to know that you have to come up with the answer to that question on your own. And I guess, what we could do is probably start to walk people through that process.
Yeah.
I think that...
Why don't you just, how did you literally come up with the idea to have a supplement business? What was the process there?
My story's a little... It's almost like I don't... the way it worked out for me isn't like what I try to teach people to do. It just kind of worked out. I talk a lot about how important it is to follow something that you're passionate about and follow something that, that you're interested in, and figuring out how to monetize that business. And that's not how it worked for us. If I'm being completely honest, we did the same thing a lot of entrepreneurs do in the beginning, is they focus on the money. Okay, so Chris and I, when we were young, we were 18, 19 years old, we're like, hey, let's start a business. And the first business idea that we came up with was tanning. And the reason we came up with a tanning bed business is because we knew somebody else who was in that business, who ironically I'm still very good friends with today, that was doing really well. And so we said, okay, Todd's doing great at tanning, let's do tanning. We weren't passionate about fucking having some kind of bronze tan, Right. It's just, we were trying to make money. And so we researched it a little bit, and then we come to find out that, we couldn't afford, we only had $12,000.
Right.
We couldn't afford a tanning bed, not even one. So
they're that expensive.
Oh yeah. They're like 50, back then they were like $50,000. Yeah. I don't know what they are now. But anyhow, so that kind of crossed it off the list for us. And then what happened was we decided to open a supplement store, because that was something that we were into personally. We knew about that personally. We were both into working out. We were both athletes. We were both interested in that direction in our personal lives. So although we didn't choose that business as our first choice, it ended up being the same thing I teach people, which is to follow your passion. And it's because what we knew about,
right.
And I make, a lot of times when I talk about this with people, I make extreme examples. I remember I made a video the other day talking about, if you're interested in butterflies, how to make a business out of it. It really does come down to following your passion, because when you, and excuse me for clearing my throat, but I've been sick for 2 weeks, but it comes down to following your passion. Following your passion is a very abstract thing for most beginning entrepreneurs to put their arms around and to wrap their mind around, because it's just, it doesn't make sense. When you're 18 years old or 19 years old, or you're 30 years old and you've got bills to pay, and you're like, man, I want to start a business, and someone's like, oh, let's follow your passion. That sounds like some rainbow bright fucking bullshit.
Right.
You're trying to get paid, you've got bills to pay, you've got obligations, and that just doesn't sound very practical. And you think, oh, well, I'm going to do what makes the most money. Fuck what I'm passionate about. I want the most money. But here's the thing. When you start out on the entrepreneurial journey, you're not going to make money when you first start. The first 2, 3, 4, 5 years are going to be very hard. And the reason it's important to follow your passion is for 2 reasons. One, during that process of it being very tough, and for it to be difficult in the beginning, you're going to wake up in the morning and you're going to say, man, this sucks. I don't have any money in my bank account. My girlfriend just left me because I don't have any money. I can't afford my rent. I'm late on my bills, but fuck, I love what I do.
Right.
Okay. And that passion and that caring for what you do and the excitement for what you do is going to carry you through those difficult times, to where, you're going to be able to withstand all the other negative aspects of being an entrepreneur in the beginning, to get to the point, 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road where you're actually making great money, and you're enjoying your job. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and then the other aspect to that is that to become an expert in something, it's very hard to become an expert in something you're not interested or passionate about. If you're not interested in fitness, don't get into the fitness business. If you're not interested in butterflies, don't start a fucking butterfly website.
Right.
I mean,
right.
It's one of those things. For you to become the expert you need to become to monetize that idea, you have to be interested in it. You have to be passionate about it. Right, exactly. It's obsession. I mean, you've done this.
Absolutely.
Tell people what you think about it.
No, I agree 100%. And it's funny because I was just thinking as you're talking about like my journey.
Right.
And like I used to remember the days that, there was a point where I was a bartender, I sold new homes, and I used to like think, and I'm like, what is my purpose? I have no idea what I want to do in life.
Right.
And I always knew I wanted something, but I didn't know what. And it's funny because I ended up taking a human biology course in college and like became obsessed with health, started working out, like became obsessed with fitness. It really changed my life. So I decided, okay, well, I want to have a career in fitness, but instead of just being a personal trainer, I decided to just open my own gym, knowing nothing about business or fitness or anything.
Right.
And just became absolutely obsessed with it. And so that's the thing is like you have to have the constant desire to keep bettering yourself and like learning more and more. And then I think there's two parts of that equation. That's the first most important part.
Right.
I think the second part is like having passion is great, but you have to see opportunities as well. So it's like having passion and taking that and turning it into an opportunity, which is...
And I think that's where most people struggle. Like when we get these questions that you have here about, how do I know what's right? How do I make my passion into an income? I think that's the connection that most people can't make.
Right.
Is how to monetize their passion.
It's just like I was listening to the ebook by Seth Godin, and he calls it a rift.
Right.
It's like seeing that rift and jumping on it. It's like he talks about Walt Disney did it with like the animation and the theme parks, and he saw a need and he took his passion and made it into that need. So it's kind of like morphing what you're doing and jumping on an opportunity.
Well, and also you got to realize that you're not going to hit a home run every time. So let's say, you're Walt Disney, right? And you want to jump in and do the theme parks. He saw the opportunity, but he was already into that business before that opportunity presented itself. So, recognizing the opportunity, like if you wait until you think the perfect opportunity is there to jump into something and get into something, you're too late. Because there's already people who are in that industry that are knowledgeable and become experts.
3 steps ahead.
That have already seen that opportunity and probably created it.
Yep.
So...
One thing that I notice about you, Andy, and also you, Teresa, is that I think a lot of people, when they think of entrepreneurial endeavors, they think of innovation, they think of starting something new. But I think what you guys have kind of learned is that you don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to come up with some brand new product that nobody's created. You just have to do something you like and something that you're passionate about, and then
and make it exceptional.
And make it exceptional.
Right. You make it better.
Right. Make it better.
There's 2 ways to innovate. I mean, there's coming up with something brand new. And then there's taking something that already exists and making it exponentially better. Right. And that's, I think a lot of people, when they think of innovation, they think of the first way, coming up with something brand new. There's very few things out there that are brand new. There is a fuckload of things out there that need to be improved.
Right.
So, you need to start thinking about, hey, that's good. They're doing this pretty good, but I can do it that much better.
Absolutely.
And I think both of us, you and I, Teresa and I, have built our companies off of that.
Yeah.
I didn't invent nutrition.
Right.
Well,
look at fitness it's the same thing. It's saturated.
Better.
Right. Yeah. So, Teresa, my job in the podcast is to restate the obvious for those who were dropped on their heads as kids. But basically, what you guys are saying is, if you want an idea, start with what do you like?
Yeah.
What do you like to do?
That's where you got to start.
What are your interests?
That is the place to start. And so, I recently watched a video online of a quote unquote, mentor of the internet. I don't know. But it's like, make your passion money, make your passion money, make your passion money. Look, everybody's fucking passion is money. If you're an entrepreneur and you say you don't like money and you're not passionate about making money, you're full of shit. But you have to distance yourself from the idea of focusing on the money. Because when you focus on the money...
You make bad decisions.
That's right. And the other thing is you only have so much focus and energy in a day. So if you focus on the money all the time, that's focus that you are wasting, where you could be focusing on creating something awesome or doing a better job or creating better service or better product that will make you the money. So you have to understand, money is a byproduct of the quality of the work that you do.
Absolutely.
You know, so making your passion the money is probably the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. It's coming from somebody that it's clear through my observation. I just don't think that it was good information to tell somebody.
Right.
You know, and and you have all these guys online selling these online how to make money fucking quick and this and that and all this shit. And the reality is that there is no quick way. You know, if somebody tells you I went from 0 to a millionaire in 12 months, dude, they either inherited that shit or they're lying. Or they made it by selling you a story about that.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's just, it's not realistic, you know, and most people jump from idea to idea to idea to idea their whole entire lives instead of just sticking into one, becoming a true expert at it, one of the best in the world, and putting in the work and then letting the rewards come to them, you know, after they've invested that time, you know. And I'm going to tell you, and any legit entrepreneur will tell you, you have to put in the fucking work. You've got to be consistent, and you have to be willing to pay your dues. And if you do that, you'll build a viable business. I mean, I just watched a really cool episode of Ask Gary Vee, and you guys, you know, Vaughn, I love Gary Vaynerchuk. He's one of my favorite authors. I think he's awesome. But some guy wrote him a question about like, hey, you know, how do I monetize being on the internet and just hang out on the beach all day and like smoke weed? Like, he literally asked this question.
Is he from Colorado?
Dude, I don't know. But like the point is like that's the fucking mentality. The mentality is that there's these secret ways to make money. And his answer was perfect. He's like, man, you know, like there's like out of 1,000 people, there might be one guy who did that, and that guy probably put 5 or 6 years of hard ass work to figure out how to do that, passive income.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then on top of that, he's probably selling you the program and making a lot more money.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
It's not a realistic thing, man. So you're better off just saying, hey, all right, you know, what am I interested in? I'm interested in X. I'm going to become an expert at X. I'm going to figure out how to monetize X.
Right.
You know, and
you know that term passive income's even.
Oh, it's bullshit.
Well, I mean, it doesn't. I understand the use of it, but it doesn't account for how much work went into getting to that point, or even
no. That was the
maintaining
point
it.
of what Gary said on his thing.
Yeah,
it's like it's not. It didn't account for, you know, the years of expertise studying work that went into figuring that out. And like and these guys, they get online and they sell these kids these kits like, hey, buy my kit for $200 and I'll show you how to fucking, you know, make this much money. It's like, dude, you're making all your money off selling the fucking kit.
Right.
You know,
right.
I don't know. I would just hope that people listening to this show will listen to me, listen to the people that we bring on the show, and then the fact, and we're getting a little off track, but the point is like, dude, invest yourself now in this passion. You know, learn about what it is you're interested in. Become an expert.
Right.
You know, and by the time, you know, 5-6 years from now, you know, it took me a long time, but you got to remember, I built my business before the internet was really like a huge thing.
Right.
You know, so it took me longer. Now you have more opportunity to go quicker because there is other tools. There's instant access to everything now. So where it took me 10 years to, you know, buy my first Lamborghini, it might take you 5.
Right.
Because technology's different now.
Right.
But fuck, 5 years, that sounds like a good deal to me.
Right.
5 years and then do whatever the fuck you want. We talked a little bit about passion, right? You've got to be interested in it. Teresa, you even said, you know, that's what you became obsessed with. I know you're obsessed. You still yell at me.
I want to add something too when you're
every
done.
time you see me drink a Diet Coke, she yells at me.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Because there's so many chemicals in there. I'm like, fuck,
Yeah.
I'd be dead anyway.
I think
don't
there's
care.
a third point that we didn't talk about with that too.
What's
that? I
that?
kind of want to touch on.
What?
I think like when
Wait,
you're
you're backtracking?
Huh?
We don't
Just
do
for
that.
like a nanosecond, because I
I'm
think it's
kidding.
super
We do.
important.
Okay.
Is, you know, like whenever you're starting any kind of a startup, unless you're like massively funded, a big part of it is getting people to believe in you and selling your X, whatever it is, your product, your service, your business, whatever. And the way that you can successfully sell that is by believing in it 100%.
Yeah.
And you're not going to believe in it and be able to communicate that passion or that, you know, belief unless you are passionate about it.
Yeah.
And it's like they say basically sales is the, you know, I guess transference of emotion and passion, and that's exactly why people who are like uber passionate and obsessed with something can sell it so great, and you can get people to believe in you, and that's how you can really build a great company. At least that's how I've been successful.
I agree.
That's how I've been super successful, because I'll tell you, nobody gave me a big check to start businesses.
Yeah.
It's about getting a team of people that really believe in you, and it starts with you believing
And a lot of times,
and loving what you do.
A lot of times, those people work for you for free. in the beginning.
Absolutely, that's
because
what I'm
they
saying.
believe in you.
But you believe in yourself and what you're doing, and you love it so much. The energy.
Dude, I got
transfers to
guys
them.
here I have guys here in this office, in this building. That's such a great point. But I have people in this building, including my brother, who left his job at Johnson & Johnson, a Fortune 500 company. He was the number one salesperson on earth in their company for 3 years straight. Wow. Left his job, took a 50% pay cut to come work at First Form because he believed in it.
Absolutely. Because you believed in it.
Right. And there's people in this building, there's other people in this building who have worked here for 10 years and, now they're getting paid, what they should get paid, but they worked for a long time for less than that because of what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that because you want to take advantage of people.
No.
I'm saying that because it's fucking necessary for everybody to sacrifice to build something great.
That was my point, is I just think that's such a huge component.
No
because
doubt.
people could have a great idea and be passionate, but if you can't get a team of people to help you, unless you have somebody literally writing checks to you, it's going to be hard to make it on your own. I mean, you have got to rally these people, you have to inspire them, they have to believe in you, and they have to know you have an unrelenting passion and desire to make it work.
And that all
and if
flows
they believe in
naturally
you, exactly.
from passion.
And they can read it if it's fake too.
Oh, yeah.
If it's not genuine, no one's going to do anything no one's going to buy in.
No.
So it's just, to me, like when we were
in
talking,
6
I'm like,
months from now, you'll see that dude at dinner and be like, what happened to that idea?
Exactly.
It didn't work out.
Yeah.
Because the passion was probably because they thought they could make a buck.
Well,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote an article about you, and here I am.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly.
There you go.
I mean, the thing is that, anybody who says the passion's not a big aspect or a starting place for an idea, they're not getting the concept of true entrepreneurship.
Right.
That's it. I mean, you have to take what it is that you love and you have to figure out how to become an expert at that, which if you love it, that's going to be easy because you're probably already an expert. And a lot of people get hung up, I think, because they know so much about something, but then, and there's two kinds of people, there's people who, they know so much about something but refuse to accept the idea that they're an expert. They're like overly humble. And then there's people who don't know very much and think they're an expert. And, so you have to be able to differentiate yourself and step outside of your own body and become self-aware of like, where do I really fall and how much do I have to learn to become one of the best?
Right.
So, I mean, that's an important aspect. But I think, most people in this position, okay, like let's say, all right, they've been listening to podcasts. All right, I'm passionate about, X. How am I going to turn that into a business? Because some things that people are passionate about they're difficult to turn into a business. For example, I take guitar lessons. I've been taking guitar lessons since I was 30 years old. My friend who has become a really good friend of mine, he's a guitar teacher. He makes his money teaching guitar lessons. Over the course of time, we become good friends and we talk, and a lot of times we talk more than we practice. And we end up talking about business because he's interested in becoming, a real business, not just him teaching somebody.
Right.
And so we talked, and over the course of the last 2 years, we've come up with different ideas and this and that. And now he's got a website that people subscribe to, that he teaches people from all over the world in groups. It's like at groups at a time.
Wow.
And he's doing really well.
And he's able to do that even though he can't do that, in person with the tactile type stuff.
No, yeah, he does it.
Wow.
And then he's
amazing.
got courses that he sells now, and he's all these different things, these products that he's created out of his.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Right. And that's when I think of and the reason I bring that example up, and the reason I like that example is because when he first said, man, I don't know how to make, this into a business, like a real business, I didn't have an answer for him. I don't know, and we just kind of worked it out over time.
But it's great because when you hear a guitar player, you don't think entrepreneur.
No.
But that's exactly what he did.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, the example I made a YouTube video the other day, and I used butterflies as an example because how do you you're passionate about butterflies. How do you turn that into a business? I mean, I can't think of anything that would be tougher than that. I'm going to fucking make a business out of butterflies. But here's the way it works. The way it works is this. You're passionate about butterflies. You know everything about butterflies. You know their weight. You know their origin. You know where they live. You know the colors. You know the patterns. You know every different type. Okay, you're probably the top 1% of people that know butterfly stuff. All right? How do you turn that into a business? So That's the question.
I have the best example for this because every time I watch, it just astounds me. Do you ever watch, like, what are those, the TV shows, like the reality, the Pawn Stars or whatever?
Yeah.
When the people come in to, like, value the stuff, it's like the expert of weaponry from, like, so-and-so.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, who is this person? And they get paid a ton of money to do this. It's like the most random, insignificant that you would never even know. And they're a complete expert. These people pay them tons of money to come in and like appraise these things.
Well, yeah.
I'm like, he turned it into a business.
Well, and
his
that's
obsession with whatever it is.
So that comes from that comes from the idea of the masses. Okay, so like people think that they have to have the attention of the mass majority of people to make a successful business. You don't.
And
You're
actually,
far better off
exactly
following
finding
a small niche.
Yeah.
Right. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
But you know, with the butterfly thing, I mean, you know, like I said in the video the other day, it's like, okay, you start a website, you start a blog about butterflies. Other people who are not as knowledgeable about butterflies but want to learn about butterflies come to your website. All of a sudden, you've got enough traffic to where you can start selling some ads on your website. All right.
Right.
Now, you decide you want to make butterfly can koozies, and you can make the can koozies because everybody who loves butterflies wants butterfly can koozie.
Right.
You know, of course. Duh, who doesn't want one of those? Of
course.
Right. Then you can make you know, car covers for your garage. So when you open up your garage, you got like 2 butterflies in your garage. Right. You know, then you can, you know, make butterfly snuggies. You know, so that when you lay on the couch, you can sell all this shit on your website. All of a sudden, you got a business. You know, that's how it works. So like when people think, like they come and they say, Andy, I don't know where to start. And I say, well, what are you passionate about? That's what I'm talking about. You can literally turn almost anything into a business. It's just connecting the dots from A to Z. And that's what I hope that you guys could take away from what we're talking about now. Right. It's not necessarily that, you know, you don't have to have something that every single person you know is going to buy.
Right.
If you're interested in it and you love it, there's other people just like you that love that same shit. Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Guaranteed.
Right.
And that's all you need.
Right.
You could build a hell of a business like that. And you just, you know, will you ever be Microsoft? No, but you might be able to, you know, you could easily earn 6 figures a year doing a niche business like that.
Right. So we've been talking about principles. I would be very interested to hear about method. Okay, because I know you read a lot. I know you probably think a lot. Like,
you mean like coming up with ideas?
Yeah, like literally. Or am I jumping the gun here?
No,
because I've been reading a lot. I mean, probably the best.
Well, Teresa, like, when you started the Bikini Boss Fitness, I mean, how did that come from, you know, passion to idea to business?
Oh, gosh. Well, and when you were just talking, I was actually thinking about it because it's funny. I think another trait of a successful entrepreneur is even if you have an idea and you try it, it doesn't work really well, you adapt right away.
Right.
And you figure out what works to turn your passion into a business. Right. Because you may start with the one thing. And
it's a constant process.
Exactly. Of figuring out what works. And so this is kind of like, I ended up, you know, having my gyms, and to be just perfectly honest with you, it was way too much work. I had 2 babies in between, and I was, you know, had the baby on the.
It didn't work out the way that you wanted to. But how much did you learn?
Oh, a ton.
See?
And honestly, well, that's a whole other podcast about failing and how much you learn from it, because I could never be where I am today without that.
Exactly.
But end of the short is I ended up learning a ton, exactly. And, you know, taking about a year off, I wanted to start another business. And I kind of fell into this because it's so funny, like when you're talking about back when I used to like not know what I was going to do. I was obsessed with fitness. I owned the gyms. It was great. Well, all of a sudden I started becoming popular on social media, and I became this like fitness person that everybody came to for advice. And so I'm like, okay, well, I should really start turning this into a business now because people are coming to me for advice. I can create programs. I can do online training. And then what I found is it's kind of like where I'm at the process now is like even that's evolving. So, you know, people are getting tired of the online training. So how can I fulfill their needs? Like what's missing, taking a look at, you know, how can you make it better? How can you be exceptional? And that's kind of where I'm at now. So it's always, always, always a process. And you start at one place and you could end up at a completely different place.
Right.
So
you think most people think of the process as almost like it's being on a train and you just have 2 tracks that you have to follow, whereas it's really more like a dune buggy.
I think a lot of people do, and
it's
that's
more
what
like hop in, go, and if
I
you need
agree.
to turn.
Yeah, they're just like,
I agree.
I don't know what to do. Instead of just starting, they overanalyze
Dude,
and they think they have this perfect recipe.
The best thing you could do
Just
in
start.
Entrepreneurship is fucking just do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if you don't
figure it out.
Look, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing
No.
when they start.
Right. No.
When I started Supplement Superstores in 1999, I can remember like, this is weird, but I can remember like actually customers, like legit transactions that I had. And I remember one of the first 2 or 3 days, you know, we didn't have many people coming in. And I had a guy come in and ask for a product, it was called Celltech, and it's made by a company called Muscle Tech. And this guy comes in and he's like, well, what's this for? I didn't fucking know what it was for. It was just there. I took the product. I started like reading it. I'm like, well, here it says, it says this is this and this and this. You know what? The guy bought it. You know, and you know what? The next time somebody came in, I knew what the fucking shit was for.
Right.
Exactly. Experience.
All right.
Yeah.
So I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And now, depending on who you ask, I suppose I'm probably one of the biggest experts in the world on this industry.
Right.
I'm not tooting my own horn, but it speaks for itself.
I think people think they need the plan.
No, you
when
don't.
They just need a plan.
What you need is you need to fucking start.
Yeah.
And then what you need is you need to
keep going,
keep making mistakes,
Yeah.
and realize every time you make a mistake, and that's a part of your education.
Right.
Instead of like going and getting a fucking PhD in entrepreneurship, no, make a lot of mistakes because that'll get you your PhD in entrepreneurship. And that's where people don't get it. They think like, oh, I made a mistake today that cost me $100. Well, dude, you know what? That same mistake in 10 years cost you $1 million.
Right.
Or 10 million. Right. So be glad that you learned and don't do it again. And once you make enough of those mistakes and you do enough shit wrong, eventually all that stuff compiles together and
it works.
Yeah, exactly.
It clicks, yeah.
So Teresa, going back to you though, in terms of just real nuts and bolts, I'm curious. Like, were there times where you literally sat down in a Starbucks or wherever, and you had a notebook and you just wrote out all your ideas? Andy, how did you do it? I mean, how did you?
Yes.
What's your?
I
thought?
definitely.
How do you?
That's how I work.
Work out your thought process. Are you
I actually think this is good because I think her and I do it different. So this would be a good thing to bring up. For me personally, like ideas come from I read a lot. I read a book a week. I've read a book a week since I started in business. I get a lot of ideas from books. So like for me to get my idea, juices flowing, I read. Okay. And
you usually have a pen in your hand, or you're just mentally interacting?
I actually
notepad?
put my notes in my notepad on iPhone.
Yeah.
But I get my juices going. I read. I take things that people have done in other industries and I figure out how they can apply to our industry. And that's how I come up with my ideas.
Right.
I look for problems that need solutions, and I look for opportunities to do things better constantly. Like when I go to dinner, if we go out to dinner, and a restaurant does something that I don't think is right, I take note of it. It's annoying. It's kind of annoying to go to dinner with me, but like, because I'm always pointing out like, hey, they should be doing it like this.
They could be more efficient.
Right. They should be doing it like this.
Right.
And I make that's a part of who I am now.
Right.
Because I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
So like anytime I see something that can be done better, I automatically like look at that solution, even if it's not in our business.
Right.
So I think, as far as like idea generation, I'm just constantly filling my mind with thoughts.
Right.
And it just keeps it moving.
Well, but what's funny is that there's this. I brought this in today. It's a technique for producing ideas. There's like millions in print. It's by a guy named James Webb Young. You just actually articulated his first point, which is just constantly be gathering data.
Right.
Constantly be like gathering material in your mind.
And I think a lot of people,
reading.
A lot of people are looking for this thing. Like, I'm going to come up with this idea, and I'm going to execute this idea, and I'm gonna start this business. I'm gonna do this, and everything's gonna work out. And then the rest of the time, they're gonna go play video games.
Yeah,
it's just not how it works.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're not gonna immerse yourself in the process of being in business, of being an entrepreneur, you're not an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
and you never will be.
Yeah,
you either are or you aren't. And if you think that this is gonna be like a quick little journey down the fucking railroad tracks, and then you're gonna find the pot of gold. Dude, it's not like that.
Right.
It's constantly learning, constantly evolving.
Knock down,
yes.
stand back up.
Yeah, dude,
figure
you
out
get
a
knocked down
solution.
every
Even when you're
fucking
like
day.
you're like riding, and everything's going great, then it's like douche.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
but I
it's
love
just
your
like
I love your statement just about reading. And I know Jeffrey Gittimer had the sales guy. I know you like some of his stuff. He had a great post on social media on his Instagram the other day. It was if you want to be wealthy, you have to have a wealth of knowledge, and just the importance of reading. Although Kim Kardashian's an exception to that, and there are some, but
Or a sex tape.
right,
Slash sex tape.
right. So Andy was saying that you do things differently, Teresa. How did you process the whole idea?
To be quite honest with you, I'm actually very similar to him in nature as what you're talking. I thought you were talking about more the second step, which is after you have an idea, like how to actually bring that into fruition.
No, I'm actually talking about, you use the example, or the phrase, idea generation.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm very similar. In fact, it's funny because sometimes I almost have to stop reading books because I get so many ideas. I have to like shut it off.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do the same thing. In fact, I was just doing it on the airplane, is like, and it could be for my business, it could be for a new business, it could be for something completely different. But literally, I just get so many ideas and I keep track of them. And then if it's something amazing, I jump on it. If it's something that I think for my business, obviously, I start working to implement that.
Right.
But it definitely just gets my brain going. I'm exactly the same way.
Okay.
Now, so you don't write things down, because I find that extremely
Second
helpful.
step, no. If I have an idea that I want to implement, then as far as like strategizing, then
Yeah.
I absolutely have to go and do like an outline, an agenda, how I'm going to itemize it, a task list. That's what I meant. I didn't realize you meant idea
No,
generation.
I've been doing this thing for years. It's called free writing, where you literally just take, a notebook and you write down literally anything that comes to your mind, and you don't censor yourself. You just write. And there's a great book called Accidental Genius by Mark Levy that talks about how that's really helpful in idea generation. So that works for me. I don't know that everybody has to use a pen and paper or whatever, but getting ideas down on some form of, whether it's your computer or whatever, I just think it's really helpful.
I know for Andy and I, because we've talked about this before, it's just like when we went to dinner that one time, it's like there's no shortage of amazing ideas. It's like we could come up with 10 ideas right now at this table in 5 seconds that we could turn to a business.
Right.
But it's having the time and to be able to realistically do something successful.
Yeah,
we all know that we only have so much time in the day.
Yeah, but that is a product of constantly being in that state for
Absolutely.
years and years.
And you're seeing opportunities.
So where a beginning entrepreneur, they might not see any ideas, and they might not see any opportunities, because they're so blinded by the money thing. Stop thinking about the money and start thinking about solving people's problems or how things can be done better.
I think the fear. I mean, I know you've talked a lot about that in your podcast, but I think that paralyzes people too. It's like they have an idea, and if they could just get rid of the fear and just jump on it and do it, then
and that's the fear is right. What's the fear? The fear is it's not going to work out.
Ridiculed, failing.
Yeah, people are going to laugh at me. I'm going to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
I'm going to be blah blah blah. But here's the truth of that fear. The truth is this. What are you more afraid of? Are you more afraid of getting, failing a couple times? Are you more afraid of staying exactly where you are for the rest of your life?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's something that people need to think about. I also think that people need to also think about, the fear thing. I'm a big believer that you can make anything work, as long as you're willing to pay the price to make it.
If you believe in it and you work hard, absolutely.
Right.
That's interesting, because I something that crossed into my brain when the people ask, is this $1 million idea? You would probably.
I think anything could be $1 million idea.
You make it $1 million idea.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So
there's no easy way.
No.
When people ask that question, I understand what they're asking, because I remember what it's like to think that way.
Yeah.
My whole life I grew up wanting to be in business. From the time I was 8 years old, I was selling, baseball cards and light bulbs and popsicles and shit like that. I've always been interested in business.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I remember what it's like to look for that. Like, I used to always look for that not quick money, but like, this is for sure $1 million. Like, it's like this home run idea. Like, I don't know, the fucking light bulb. I invented the light bulb.
Yeah.
I look for these massive ideas.
Started the internet.
Right. Yeah, exactly. and I think a lot of entrepreneurs get in that mindset of, we're going to think of the world's greatest idea. But the problem is that those ideas, while they do come around and people do have them, they're very uncommon.
Right.
So if you sit around and try to think of that kind of idea before you ever jump into business, you're never going to get into business.
You never do anything.
Right.
And I don't care what you say. The inventors of the Snuggie did not say, this is $1 million idea. And yet they probably made it.
They made it.
The pool noodle.
Pool noodle. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Dude, there's so many
Chia
things.
pet.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that could be made into
Right.
successful ventures. It's just,
Right.
it's deciding. It really is. It's following what it is you're passionate about. It's deciding that we're going to make this a business and we're going to make it work, and not deviating from that fucking plan.
And acting like you
Exactly.
said, just doing things. Well, so with that being said, though, obviously you want an idea that has some viability. So how did you guys go about deciding, okay, my idea is viable?
Well, are other people doing what you do?
Okay, that's point number one.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
a need, really?
Is there a
It's
market? Is
what-
there a need?
And
Yeah.
is there a need is part of the equation, but it's also, if there is a need that's being fulfilled, how could you do it differently or better?
Right.
Yeah.
To make yourself more exceptional or remarkable.
Right.
Yeah. I actually am ashamed to say that I just learned this principle a couple years ago, which was I used to think, well, if I write this book, but there's so many books on this, until somebody said, yeah, that means there's a market for it.
Right.
You know, and I think people think that sometimes. They think, well, if I do this, there's all these other people that are doing the same thing. Well, good. That means there's a market
Well,
for
how
it.
are you going to write a better book?
Yeah. How are you going to write a better book? Or,
what
or
are
maybe
these
what's
books-
the particular
I'm going through that
angle?
right now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
What are these books lacking that I could provide?
Yeah.
You know, you look for the
What's going to make your
problems.
book stand out?
Exactly.
Right.
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 I think all good entrepreneurs are very, very good and skilled at seeing the problems in the products. You know, they see the problems in the service. They see the problems in the business model.
Right.
You know, and that's how I live.
Yeah.
You know, I see the problems. I see the problems in our industry. I see the problems with, you know, the protein products that are manufactured for human consumption. I've made a living off of that.
Yeah.
You know, people just they're looking in the wrong places.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you start out, you're always looking, like I said, for that light bulb idea.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no, what do you love, and how can you monetize that?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you need to start looking, not looking to, like, you know, invent Facebook.
Right.
You know, I mean, and there's people that do that, but they've also been in that industry or in that sector doing other things for a long, long time.
Right.
You know, to
Right.
become the expert to do things like that.
Right. So I'm going to take this moment, and we're going to break from this compelling and captivating conversation to tell you a few things. Number one, we're like I said, we're still fairly new to this podcast thing, but we are available on iTunes. Obviously, most of you are probably listening to us, but we're also available on Stitcher and SoundCloud. And of course, you can always go to the MFCEO.com, and there you'll find back episodes. You'll find some of Andy's blog posts, as well as some other material that can really help you succeed in business and life.
We're here to serve you guys. You know, the purpose of this podcast is to give you guys information that you can use to build your own business, to give you information to help you stay motivated, and just give you the truth. So if you guys have real questions, send them over and we'll hit them. You know, we're constantly looking to answer these questions. So send me the questions, you know, and I'll get back to you, or I'll cover the information on the show.
Right. Right.
You know, you can hit me up on Instagram. It's at Andy Frisella. I'm on Snapchat too, MFCEO-1. Teresa, where's your where people can find you at?
My Instagram is Bikini Boss Teresa, so THERESA.
Yeah.
And are you on Snapchat?
I am.
Okay.
Bikini Boss.
Bikini Boss? Okay. I am not on Snapchat, but I am on Instagram at Vaughn Kohler. Not going to jive into Snapchat quite yet.
It's booby free Snapchat. It's not what you think.
I'm sure it's not.
So anyway, guys, Teresa, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Vaughn, thanks for making corny jokes.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's the way I contribute meaningful and providing value.
Guys, shoot me those questions. Ask Andy at the MFCEO.com. Hit me up on Instagram, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Take it easy.